Welcome to Black Man Lab. We are live Monday, March 8th, and we have a great topic tonight. We are going to be talking about what is very, very, very interesting and a topic of heavy discussion amongst our community, which is the vaccine. Are you taking it? Are you not taking it? Should you take it? Should you not take it? So we have some experts that will be on tonight to have discussion around that. But before that, I want to introduce some of my fellow board members that are here. My name is Marty Monaghan. I am the vice chair of the Black Man Lab. And with me, I have a couple of my other board members with me. My brother, Joe Barker. Joe.
Good evening. How's everybody doing? Thank you for joining us. I tell you what, the year 2021 has brought to us some pretty exciting conversations, and this one will be no different. So buckle up and let's get ready to get our energy centered, get our ancestors in the room with us, and let's have a great conversation tonight. I want to just pass on over to another board member, my brother from another mother. Brother Grant, what's going on, big dog?
Hey, brothers, how y'all doing tonight? Good to see y'all. Happy to be here. How y'all doing?
Doing good, Jared. Good to see you, bro.
Yes, sir. Good to see y'all. And welcome to our guest.
Yes, sir. So every week, just some background. Black Man Lab was started around a little over 4 years ago by some brothers that just wanted to have some extra time and FaceTime with their sons with somebody else, a best friend, an uncle, a godfather, somebody else to talk to them, because we know sometimes as fathers, our sons have a tendency to listen to somebody else rather than you. So we look to do that, and next thing you know, about 4 years later, when we were meeting in person, we would have up to 250 folks in the space, brothers from the age of 5 years old to 85 years old, and talking about all kinds of topics. And we are still pushing that in this virtual world. And the plus of it is we are able to have some guests on that we might not be able to have normally. But before we get started, one of the things that we do every week is we make sure that we are in a position to take on information. And what that means is we want this information to flow through us freely, openly, and have good space in our mind to allow it in. So first and foremost, what we do, we get centered. So, Brother Joe, I want to ask you to get us centered, and then we'll move over to bring the ancestors into the space with my brother, Jared Grant.
Gladly, and glad to do that. We've had, like I said, some really good conversations over the past few weeks in 2021. And today in particular, I want to make sure that we're centered. Today, we have kind of what we don't do often, if ever, in Black Man Lab. We have, I won't say opposing viewpoints, but, different perspectives on a topic. And I felt very passionately that we have these different perspectives because we as a community hear so many things from so many different angles. I thought that, we would have a great opportunity to learn from, professionals and wise men and our elders in these categories. So in order to receive that, we want to just kind of knock off any of our preconceived notions. We want to get rid of any chips that we may have. They say, well, I don't care what they say, I'm not going to listen to that. We want to put ourselves in a space where we're just listening and receiving the wisdom that these brothers are bringing to us, and in a space that we can kind of comprehend that it's possible to be a both and. We respect their perspectives and we have our own. So in order to do that, let's just center ourselves by taking a couple of deep breaths this afternoon, all right? So what I want to do is on the count of three, let's breathe in some of the wisdom that they're going to be having us, and let the tough day and the hardness fall out of us. So on the count of three, let's breathe in. 1, 2, 3. All right, now breathe it out. Let it out. And what's coming out is the negative energy. What's coming out is the walls that we have up of what we don't want to hear. What's coming in is the ability to receive the perspective of these brothers and the wisdom they're bringing to the table. So with that, we're going to do it one more time. On the count of three, let's take in a deep breath. 1, 2, 3. And let it out. and let's prepare for this great conversation this evening.
Thanks, Joe. And Jared, if you could, do a libation for us.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. We like to bring our ancestors into the room with us. We like to call on them. We like to think about those ancestors that, like Imhotep of great ancient Kemet, a great healer, one of the world's first multi-geniuses from the great civilization of Kemet. And so we like to think of ancestors like that. Everybody say Ashe.
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 Ashe. We like to think about ancestors that were able to cross the great pond known as the Atlantic Ocean, and who survived the toil of that trip. We like to honor them as well. Everybody say Ashe.
Ashe.
And then those ancestors that were able to endure and struggle and survive through enslavement, we like to give thanks and say to them also healing and Ashe, Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe, Ashe.
And we like to think of those ancestors, those individuals, like a Martin Luther King, like a Ida B. Wells, like a Marcus Garvey. We like to think of all of these individual ancestors, put them in your hearts and minds. Think about them for a quick second. And on 1, 2, 3, everybody say Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe.
And then I want you to think about the 10,000 ancestors that it took to create you, that you are here with us. All of that from your own bloodline that created you. Think about your own ancestors right now. Lock them in your heart and mind. And everybody raise your fist. And on 3, say Ashe 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Ashe.
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 Ashe. All right. Thank you so much, Jerry. It's so important for us to keep going and moving with the ancestors with us, because we know that without them, we would not be where we are today. So thank you for that, Jared. Without further ado, I want to get into the conversation. First and foremost, what I want to do is have our guest panelists introduce themselves to the Black Man Lab crowd. So first, I'll start with Dr. Jeanine Oliga. Can you give an intro for yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Jeanine Oliga. I'm an internist medical physician, been practicing for 25 years. I've been associated with the CAB Medical Center and presently with the Emory University Healthcare System. My practice is located in Decatur, South Decatur, and we have a large population of African-American patients that come to my practice. And we see everything from acute problems to chronic problems and major things like diabetes, hypertension, a lot of the chronic problems that affect our community we deal with.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. We're going to delve into your practice a bit and then some of your thoughts around the vaccine and everything as well. So thank you for being here tonight. Next up, we have one of our Babas that have been a part of the Black Man Lab since pretty much its inception, and has helped us on so many different levels. Baba Wekesa, how are you?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
Great to have you. Can you give an introduction to yourself, Baba Wekesa?
Yes, I'm the co-founder and co-director of Aya Education Institute. I'm also a science teacher here. Aya Education Institute both serves adults with our Warriors, Healers, and Builders. It's a psychological and personal leadership development paradigm for adults that we apply across the numerous areas, whether we're talking about relationships or whether we're talking about building our businesses or running our education institutions. And we have educational courses for middle school and high school students as well as adults, that is traditional academic subject areas, I hesitate because we don't teach it in a traditional manner, so it doesn't really quite qualify as traditional. But, you know, to make sure that our students are able to graduate and matriculate at whatever universities they want to. I'm proud to say that our graduates have a 83.3% rate of getting full 4-year scholarships.
Wow.
And that's the work that we do as a demonstration school. We're really not trying to be have 1,000 students or anything. We really wanted to create a space where we could teach and develop methodology for teaching Black youth and Black adults. And then we actually then consult with a number of different schools and institutions and parents and who really want to know how to teach our children, and we're able to share something with them.
All right. Thank you so much, Bob. We appreciate having you on as always. So without further ado, we're going to get into the conversation. We're up against the clock, which is at 7:45 is when we try to finish sharply. But with this topic matter, I can imagine that we're subject to run long if it gets real good. So without further ado, Brother Joe, you want to jump in?
I do. So, you know, it's two men on here, Baba Wekesa and Dr. Oliga, that I have the utmost respect for, and we're so lucky to have both y'all's perspectives. So, Baba Wekesa, if you don't mind, I'd like to start with you, sir. Could you just kind of give us an overview on your perspective of the, you know, vaccine, the not the vaccine, you know, where we are as a country and taking it, shouldn't. Just give me your overall perspective, thoughts on it, sir.
Sure. I'll try to move quickly, you know, so we can move in and out and have a conversation, but I have to start with the coronavirus itself and the particular response, because the vaccine is an extension of the initial response that gave birth to our creating a project of our Education Institute called the NGOLO movement. NGOLO is Kikongo, and it means power. The reason it came about is, as everybody did last February and March around this time, learning about this virus and how deadly it was, I was listening and I heard two things. Both of them make sense, but a third one didn't. The first was, this is highly contagious, and so we need to make sure that we socially distance. We need to make sure that we mask up. We need to make sure we do what we can so that if it's highly contagious, that we don't spread it. Makes sense. Then I also heard that what we're going to do is our boys in the lab going to get busy, okay, and come up with a vaccine, and we're going to fast track it, and we're going to make sure it's safe and whatever. So y'all just chill. Now, the boys in the lab doing what they will do makes sense, you know, not that I necessarily trust it, but still it makes sense that they were going to, you know, and I would wait to see. What didn't make sense is this. In the broad middle between y'all socially distance so you don't spread it and wait till the guys get it in the lab, we were discouraged from developing our own immune systems as a positive response, okay? We were not encouraged to do that. And so there was no encouragement that people go back and pull up and say, you know what, we had victory gardens during World War II. We can have that as a movement to save the nation. This is something that's attacking the world. So guess what? Begin to do those things that would build your immune system. There was nary education process about that. And there was not a movement. And whenever people did, there was all kinds of, well, it'll take too long. You can't do it fast enough. And this kind of discouragement. Now, this didn't make sense to me as a man, and as a Black man especially. You're going to tell me I'm hurt or I'm in danger. You say, listen, I can't help you right now, but I'm going to go and I'll be back. But in the meantime, don't you try to help yourself. Make no sense to me. So what my Black antenna went up, like that makes no sense, okay? Because even with the promise, I'm getting to the vaccine part, because then the promise
Take your time, Baba. You're good, sir. You're good.
The in the lab would come and get the vaccine ready. Now, I've been teaching for a long time, okay? In many different institutions from higher ed to preschool. And what I know about vaccines, regardless of how they're made, okay, whether it's an attenuated, which means it's a weakened version, or it's a fragment, which is a part of it, or even the new mRNA production of a fragment. At best, the vaccine does two things. Triggers your own immune system and gives your immune system practice. So it didn't make sense to me that we weren't encouraged to develop our immune system and to begin to believe in it, to strengthen it, all right? And the believe in it part was also important because of what is a known body of research called psychoimmunology, okay? And the research on stress, chronic stress, and stress and adaptive response. What I mean by this, whenever there is this kind of stressors that we've been under, whenever there is an adaptive response to that, that is a fight or flight, the immune system is enhanced. Whenever there's nothing I can do, and we'll sit in the corner and we'll just make sure whenever there's that kind of response, that instigates chronic stress, and that suppresses the immune system. Okay? So it made no sense to me then, all right? And so we began a movement to teach our people about how to build our immune system, particularly to dealing with ARDS, okay, acute respiratory distress syndrome, the stages of it and all of that, what we need to eat, what we need to do. That is, I'll go to it later if it's time. We developed a protocol and had 5 pillars to this NGOLO protocol. The point, the main point was this. The response that they had encouraged was a dependency-based weakening response. It was not an empowering response. And it is dangerous for an oppressed people to submit to their oppressors under any pretext that doesn't have us end up stronger, okay? And so what we said to do is let's build that. Now, I'll cut to the chase and then somebody else will talk and I'll keep on going, okay? And that, I mean, when it's time to come back around. Because of that position and because of our work to do that, which included things like cut sugar completely out, which included things like get outside. When folks were saying stay inside, we said, hell no, get outside. You want to mask up, okay? But get you 10,000 international units of vitamin D. This is long before what's been proven of how effective vitamin D is for helping us defeat the coronavirus, okay? But what we said, get 10,000 international units of vitamin D, all right? We said drink water, copious amounts of water, get sleep, and for the 4 levels of defense for our immune system, we said, here is what you need to eat and not eat. The point I'm trying to stress is, from the very beginning, we said this is a serious virus, so we need to respond seriously. But seriously, that is empowering and leave us empowered and not more weakened and dependent. So whether people choose to take the vaccine or not, if they have not built their immune system, then the response is going to be weakened. You see, and this is just so important. Many people think that if I take the vaccine, it will somehow suppress the actual virus or it will kill it. I've done research. I've done all kinds of, and asked people from being in the airport to literally formally calling people, what do you think will happen when you take the vaccine? Here's what people say typically. They said it will in fact suppress or kill the virus. And they're surprised when I say the vaccine, neither one of them, whether Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, whatever, or those several ones in India, okay, will actually touch the virus at all. I want y'all, those listeners, to hear that, because most people don't understand that. The vaccination does not touch the virus at all. It does not support your immune system, and it does not stimulate your immune system. It triggers an immune response, like a pop, 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 knock at your door. Pop, pop, pop. If you are sick in the bed and can't answer it, then you're in trouble. Then that knock at the door, that alert will not do you much good, all right? And so what we said then and what we say now is build your immune system. Now, I don't prescribe to nobody. I want people to do what they need to do to make them feel safe. If you ask me personally, am I going to take the vaccine? Not unless I'm forced to, okay? Not unless it's a situation where it ought to save my children, I have to, okay? At the same time, I respect if people do. I also feel sad in many cases because we have not been given all the facts. And there's been a copious, not copious, too nice a word, amount of fear-mongering. And what I mean is this. The statistics, the numbers, and we check them every month, okay, and have been running it. If you want me to, I can give you the whole graphic of them since the time of this thing started. 99.6% of people who are currently infected, and I'm not talking about based on the vaccine, I'm talking about this is before the vaccine was given and is maintained. 99.6% of those people currently infected with the coronavirus using their own immune system keeps their condition mild, which means they don't have to go to the hospital, all the way through to recovery. 1/4 of 1%. Hear me, 1/4 of 1%. I'll take you to the whatever when it's time. 1/4 of 1% are their cases get severe and they go to the hospital, right? And all of them don't die. Now, when you have those kinds of numbers, then the question becomes, what's the rush? What's the rush? It doesn't mean it's not serious. It means what's the rush that you will have millions of people exposed to a vaccine that has not been properly tested, and no 8 weeks ain't properly tested, okay? I'm not talking about what happens in the clinical trials in 8 weeks. We know from the history of vaccines that some things show up years and years later. Right. There have been 66 vaccines that have been pulled from circulation because of what people found out. Now, again, if for people, everybody got to decide what it takes for them to be safe, and we respect that. Our position actually is a quite unifying position, because whether you choose to take the vaccine or not, our position always has been build your immune system, and that immune system that you build and the better health that you stimulate will not only help your body defeat the coronavirus, it'll help you deal with the side effects should you have any, and it will also begin to attenuate issues of diabetes, issues of high blood pressure, and those kinds of things. See, that's the kind of response, to take advantage of the fear of this and the urgency of this health thing, to choose a response that will actually help us, have us be a healthier community at the end, as opposed to a weakened and a more dependent community. I'll stop there.
Baba Wekesa, no wiser words spoken. So I really appreciate that. The great thing about so much of what I heard in there for you is it's not a yes or no. It's what's more important is you're taking care of your health initially. What's more important is those things that you're doing in the interim and offering solutions. And I appreciate those words because, you know, John, as we come over to you, what I will say is you've been my medical physician for my entire adult life, Dr. Oliga, and I will say everything that Baba Wekesa said, you've always emphasized to me. I hate drinking water. I'm sitting up here now with this, all right, because my doctor stays on me about it. So I think it's interesting that we have a bridge there. But before we get into what we have in common or difference, John, I want to flip over to you because you and Jeanine and other members of the community have been working very hard at putting together communication to go out to the community as to the why we should get the vaccine, the benefits, the hows, and so forth. And even though I'm against it, very much like what Bob Wekesa said, I'm more so, let me take care of my health and so forth. I want to support y'all's efforts because I do know that there are some of our elderly that need it. Both of my parents, you were responsible for helping them get shots. So I understand those things. So I want to talk about your efforts, John. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the work that you and Jeanine are putting in, why it's important that you kind of stepped out and began to do community efforts like that?
Yes. So in terms of dealing with this coronavirus pandemic that it's been with us now for about a year, what we begin to realize over the past year, we begin to realize that this was a new novel virus, which was very contagious, very deadly. It could, and as we've seen, over 500,000 people have died from coronavirus this past year. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning, people were told to social distance, wear a mask, wash hands, things that will do to help reduce the spread of the virus. And also, and I know we haven't talked too much in medicine about the immune system as far as helping to combat the virus, but there is a good point that when you help your immune system, it helps fight off viruses, infections, and just a general health well-being. Certain things that can help boost your immune system. There are certain nutrients you can take, vitamins you can take like vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, that have been shown to help boost the immune system. Exercise helps strengthen your immune system, adequate rest, good nutrition. These are all things that we focus not just in particular with the coronavirus, but just in general health when it comes to other things that we deal with, such as high blood pressure, diabetes, respiratory diseases. And so, focusing on those things does help you be able to cope with things like, for example, the coronavirus. I can give you statistically, for example, right now, we do know that out of all those patients that have been hospitalized with coronavirus, about 25% of the patients they found have hypertension, 22% have obesity, and about 20% have diabetes. So there seems to be a difference in terms of people that are hospitalized with coronavirus versus people that are not hospitalized. They tend to have a certain common themes, and that's obesity, hypertension, and diabetes. Now, when I mention those three diseases tend to be more prevalent in our community. Mm-hmm. And I see that all the time. Our patients that I take care of on a day-to-day basis, hypertension, diabetes, and obesity. It's like bread and butter for me. Every patient that walks in the door, chances are half of them are going to have one of those three things. Mm. And so that's why our community has been hit much more harder with this coronavirus than, let's say, in the white community, because we tend to suffer overwhelmingly these type of diseases more so than other races. And we don't, even for those patients that recover from coronavirus, let's say somebody just ends up with an infection. We don't know whether that person is going to have complications from coronavirus or whether they're going to have a good recovery. Majority do, but of those that don't, we're finding out that about 30% of those patients that have recovered from coronavirus tend to have lingering problems associated with the coronavirus, the fatigue, the brain fog, the shortness of breath, the symptoms of those. those tend to linger in up to 30% of patients who've recovered from coronavirus. So to me, it seems like trying to prevent you from getting the virus in the first place is very critical. We're knowing that we can do wearing masks and hand washing and social distancing are primary preventative measures. Mm-hmm. But more so than that, I have patients who have done all of these, and despite all of these measures, and despite doing everything that we tell them to do, we see a lot of patient cases, especially in the last few months, of patients contracting COVID. So with the advent of the vaccine that became available in just 3 months ago, it's been shown that it not only can it prevent you from the virus, but even there's some cases reported that those patients who were having those lingering effects from coronavirus, such as the fatigue, the brain fog, the shortness of breath, when those individuals received the vaccine, they felt better. But even the ones with the loss of smell that we know are associated with the COVID infection, in many cases, they've seen that loss of smell eventually go away once they got the vaccine. Mm. So there is something to not just for patients who have never had the infection, but even for those individuals who have had the infection, if you give them the vaccine, it helps their immune system and fight off this infection, because we don't know if in those individuals there's a lingering, persistent infection that continues to cause other problems, and also thinking that initially we thought this was just a respiratory infection, something similar to like the flu and so on. But as we begin to realize more and more so, this is not just a respiratory virus that just causes respiratory problems. It does cause vascular problems, cardiovascular problems. I have had patients who have been admitted with large clots in their lungs related to coronavirus, because this coronavirus causes something called hypercoagulability, which means it makes your blood become more clotting. You develop more clotting problems associated with coronavirus. You have the issues with neurological. I had a patient who was admitted back in July, an older gentleman. He was in his 60s, late 60s. And even when it was discharged from the hospital 3 weeks later, he had this lingering dementia problems that persisted. And it wasn't until I saw him about 3-4 weeks ago where their dementia was starting to get better. So he had kind of a long-term effects neurologically from the coronavirus. So to me, when people think that it's probably no similar to the flu, no, this is different. This is something that we in this past 100 years or so, none of us have experienced it. That's why the World Health Organization, the CDC, and all these major organizations realized that this was a global pandemic. There was an urgency to address it because of the millions and millions of potential people that could die from the problems or be left with lingering problems associated with coronavirus. And I know there's people out there who say, well, they rushed this vaccine. They started working on it in the past year or so. Let me tell you, the research has been going on. The research has been going on for about 10 years before this. There were similar type of viruses that were affected, like the Ebola, the SARS, the initial SARS virus, the MERS virus. And scientists at that time were working on these vaccines and the only reason these vaccines never came to fruition for those previous problems is because economically it didn't make sense for those pharmaceutical companies to keep, putting the research and development into the vaccines, into developing the vaccines. So this new coronavirus vaccine is a piggyback from all the other research that has been going on for 10 years. And there's nothing new about it. I really push my patients to get the vaccine because I know it's going to help prevent them, not just them, but their family and friends and people around them that could be at risk for COVID. I have also with the vaccine, when it first came out in December, I and even Jeanine, we were hesitant to take the vaccine.
I remember.
So yeah, so we had heard stories, reports in the news, in the media. This was rushed. The vaccine was rushed. Potentially there were issues with people developing reactions from the vaccine. And even when I went in there, I started doing my reading, my research. And even when I went there to receive my first dose early in January, I still had a little fear about it. What if something happened? And I said, I have to trust the research. I have to trust the science behind it. And got the vaccine, got the 2 doses. Had a little bit of reaction, the fatigue, the soreness of the site where I got the vaccine, the headaches for about a day or so with the second dose. But since then, I've been more convinced that it's very important that everyone should get the vaccine when it's their time, and especially the elderly, because the elderly are the ones that are more prone to the complications from the vaccine.
Right. No, John, I appreciate that perspective. Jeanine, good to see you on board. Jeanine, we hear everything you said. So,
Tell Joe I can't hear.
Oh,
He has to put him on speakers. Yeah.
You might have to.
All right. Well.
Oh wow. Okay. I'm on board.
So hold one second for me, Jeanine. Hold 1 second for me, okay? So what I will need for you all to do, because you're going to have an echo in there, because both of y'all on it separately. So if we could figure out how to get y'all on together, because I'm hearing a delay and it's kind of impacting what we're doing here. So maybe, Jeanine, you might need to go to another room even and do it if at all possible. But that being said, thank you, John, for the info. I definitely understand the emphasis of why you wanted to, get out in the community and do it and why it means so much to you. I want to flip it over to Marty before we go too much further. Again, Jeanine, thanks for joining us. I look forward to seeing you on another screen. But Marty, what you got so far, buddy?
No, this has been a very interesting. Baba Wekesa, I've known about his NGOLO project, and it's interesting to hear medical doctor's point of view on it as well. And I think we're dealing with kind of both of the worlds that could work together to a degree. On the front end, I think building, and Baba Wekesa, you tell me if I'm off here, but you're saying building of your immune system will keep us in a place to start with where we're holding off the virus to begin with, right?
We're defeating the virus to begin with.
Right. Okay. And then, Doc, what you're saying is, because of the kind of condition of our communities, it may be that it's necessary that we have the virus vaccine, because we're seeing all these comorbidities in terms of obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and tell me if I'm right here. Is what you're seeing because of your practice, people are coming into a situation where they're not in a position to be where Baba Wekesa is talking about? Is that where you're going with it more so? Like the people are already in bad shape, in other words, so they're compromised. Is that what you're seeing more than not?
What I was attesting to was that because of these conditions, it puts those patients at a greater risk, even if they try to do things like say, for example, we know that if you boost the immune system by taking nutritional supplements and exercise and good nutrition, that helps your immune system fight off the viruses. But with underlying obesity and hypertension and diabetes, it makes it harder because the body can still be overwhelmed. When we get this virus infection, it's unpredictable to what extent it may cause detriment, you know, and I see that a lot of patients do have mild infections, but it's the ones that are the most severe, the ones that get hospitalized, that die from the complications, the respiratory issues, the clotting issues, the cardiovascular remnants that makes it makes it a challenge. And so because of our community as it is, I feel like it's imperative that we all get back, you know, the vaccine. Because
Marty,
Go ahead, Baba.
okay, let me respond to a couple of things. The increased sensitivity of our folks, those who have kidney disease, those who have blood pressure, those who have hypertension, and those illnesses that are dominant in our community. Part of what puts them at risk is not just the physical conditions, but the immunosuppressant drugs that they are on. And one of the things that I recommended from the very beginning is that to my brother and other people who are in my family who want it, is for them to go to their doctors and ask them to take them off of ACE inhibitors, okay? That increases the receptor cells. And while this particular virus will go everywhere and anywhere, it starts in the lungs. And our strategy always has been build your defense at the front door. In fact, at the porch if you can, all right? So that you don't have to be dealing with a mess in the living room and in the bedroom and in the basement. And so one of the things that has not happened, there has not been addressing the issue of immunosuppressants and changing, at least for some time, so that we would not be more vulnerable. That's number one. Number two, when we say our community is more at risk, actually is that's been questioned in the sense of the actual numbers. I know we're more at risk because of kidney disease and that kind of thing. All right, I just think we need to treat that differently. When you look at the percentage of the population, percentage of Black people, and I just did this on Sunday, Saturday when we had our session. That is the Black people are 13% of the population. We're 16% of the folks, of our folks who get coronavirus, of our population. White people are 60% or some number. I'm not exactly sure about that. But what was clear, and I'll get it if you know, because I've asked for them to send me that information. It was the National Conference of Nurses. It is much more, I think, a media piece of how bad it is in our community versus other communities, all right? And I think part of the medical industry, all right? And I'm not talking about individual practitioners. I'm not talking about Dr. Oliga. I'm not talking about Jeanine. I don't know y'all, but I know y'all good folks who do good stuff, and most people are. I'm talking about a pharmaceutical-dominated, for-profit system, okay, that we cannot ignore pushes a process that builds dependency. It's a wonderful emergency process. It's a wonderful intervention process for healing, for chronic issues. It's been a terrible failure in terms of the actual healing of our community. And so this response is connected, because when people say, oh, we have these comorbidities and therefore we need it, it's like ignoring that there are also other things to be done to reduce the chances and increase the likelihood that those of us with comorbidities can actually do well. Now, also, please remember what I said. 99.6% of people who are currently infected worldwide, and that percentage holds, okay? And if you want me, I can share my screen and I'll take you right to it, where that information. So that includes many people. These people keep their conditions mild, which means they don't go to hospital, all right, all the way through to recovery, which means there's a tremendous amount of people who have comorbidities, all right, who don't go in, who don't have that issue. They never get to the hospital. And of the ones who do, they don't all die, not by a long shot, right? What's the problem is the fear-mongering part of this, okay? That then sets it up, and then the sense of, well, we're gonna make sure the Black community is served first. Y'all, as oppressed people, we can't just like decide that because this is about medicine, racism doesn't happen. Racism is not real, it's just gone away. Oh yes, now see, we're gonna be at the front of the line. Y'all, I'm serious. It's important. Now we may, with our skepticism, we may come to the same conclusion. Yeah? And if we come to the same conclusion, then it's like, boom, we're gonna go with that. But most of us aren't coming to the conclusion because we have worked through our skepticism. We come to the conclusion because we keep hearing it over and over. And I will tell people, the opinion of a scientist is not the same as scientific evidence. I'll give you a couple of examples. The research on ivermectin is compelling. That is RCT, that is random controlled trials, 83%, 63% effectiveness in treating the illness called coronavirus, 63% in randomly controlled trials. When you have the ones that haven't been random controls and you put them together, but though rigorous, it comes to be 83%, all right? You've had places like Peru that have used that over and over in different provinces and had their tests in populations, because the provinces that haven't used it, the numbers were sky high. My point is, we're not talking about whether this is serious. We agree on that. What we're talking about is, what is the approach to handle this, and what's the best approach, as opposed to well, what we need to do is just get the vaccine. Now, there are a couple of statements that just aren't true. The vaccine does not prevent you from getting the virus. Now, that's been said straight up. The vaccine does not do that, okay? Right? Even if you have a polio shot, the polio, what it presents is it has your body be able to practice and respond, so your body is able to defeat it. So the vaccine does not defeat the virus at all, under no circumstances, not just in the beginning, Marty, because I don't want this like, well, that was good for y'all, whatever, now the vaccine can come, don't. I'm sorry, first, beginning, and last, it will be your immune response that will determine whether or not coronavirus kicks your butt or not, okay? The vaccine at best.
Hold 1 second, Jeanine. Hold 1 second, Jeanine.
We're not talking about.
Go ahead, Baba.
Just a minute. We're not talking about side effects. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about at best, this vaccine and any other triggers the immune response and gives your body practice, okay? And when I say triggers an immune response, if your immune system has been weakened by being isolated, not giving your immune system practice, not being encouraged over a whole year to systematically build your system, then you're more likely to have side effects. You're more likely to have other kinds of issues. But I'll stop right there because I'm not trying to.
No, Baba, that's a.
I just need to address certain things that just continue to be promulgated as if there are no other responses. Okay, vitamin D3. I'm talking about in nursing homes. I'm talking about people. It's been proven, and I will pull up the statistics in the place if you want to.
So, Baba, we're with you. What we want to do is we definitely understand that perspective, and I'm with you. What I do want to give the opportunity to is for the medical people that are on the line. Jeanine, I think you wanted to say something. John, if you want to respond. But go ahead and give your medical.
I won't do that. Here's what's important. It's important because some of the questions, my brothers and sisters who, and I'm talking about literal, who are in various professions, education, for example, people are in educational system and sometimes don't ask the bottom line questions. I heard John said, I got to trust the research. Well, my thing is, what research are you going to trust? And who are you going to trust? All right. So to say I got to trust the research sounds like it makes sense, and it does. I got to trust the research. It's like I don't trust the researchers, though. Okay. And this is what's really important. See, it comes out like, oh, we don't trust science. Oh, I trust science, but I don't trust every scientist. Okay. I don't trust what you see what I'm saying? And we mix it up. Like if I question the scientist, like I'm somehow not questioning the science. And that's a dangerous thing to do.
I got you, Baba, and Jeanine, I think you wanted to add a couple things, and John, you're welcome to as well. Go ahead.
So hi, I'm Dr. Jeanine Barker Oliga, and let's see, received my training at Morehouse School of Medicine, family practice. Was my specialty, and I actually currently do conduct disability exams on veterans, but I definitely have a particular interest in the coronavirus and coronavirus vaccine. So, Mr. Baba, is it?
Baba Wekesa.
Baba Wekesa.
Mr. Wekesa.
Good, that'll work.
There are many things that you have said. There's a lot to unpack in what you've said. Very, very interesting and compelling and true things that you have mentioned that I just want to address. So that's why I kind of wanted to jump in, because there are many on many different levels. First, please correct me if I'm wrong. What I'm getting is that, Mr. Wekesa, you're saying that our people or people need to have a strong, robust immune system in order to even get the vaccine. And how is it, and I'm just doing this nutshell, how is it that we can be told, look, just stay in your corners, stay isolated and everything for a whole year, and not give us the opportunity to build a robust immune system? Well, number one, to address that, one, you can build a robust immune system by being out and about. For example, if I stay at home and I don't go to Publix, then I'm not exposed to any pathogens, any bacteria or viruses in the air. But if I do go to the grocery store, I'm exposed to different pathogens in the air. And so I may inhale them, and then my body mounts or builds up a response so that my immune system gets built up. So I have an immunity to, let's say I encountered an adenovirus or a cold virus at Publix. All right, so to your point, yes, when we're out and about, we can build up our immune system somewhat. The other thing, you mentioned that the vaccine does not prevent you from getting the virus. That is correct. The vaccine gets into your body, and as you mentioned, it kind of preps your body to fight. That's correct. So my question is, would I prefer to contract the virus and be at risk for moderate to severe illness and death? Or would I prefer to get the vaccination so that it can prep my body? No, it's not going to prevent me from getting the virus. I have gotten the vaccination. It now tells my body the next time, or if I encounter that coronavirus, now my body knows how to respond to fight that coronavirus if it comes on. So I find nothing the matter with that. Another point that you made, you said, and I don't know if you finished developing this thought or not, but you mentioned something to the effect of your family members wanted to be taken off ACE inhibitors, and ACE inhibitors, you know, impact the lungs, this, that, and the other. Well, maybe we can, to me, that's, well, I don't want to digress from the coronavirus vaccine. I feel like that is a topic in and of itself. ACE inhibitors are medications for your blood pressure. They're effective for blood pressures. They have other protective properties. But to me, it's a bit isolated from the coronavirus. And that's why I wanted to jump in, because there were other things that you mentioned that
short response to that.
Conversation.
So the connection, Jeanine.
Yes.
The ACE inhibitors increase the receptor cells for the spike proteins to dock to. That's why I mentioned it. Okay. ACE inhibitors increase by a large margin the number of receptor cells on your lungs for the spike protein.
Yeah, but is it for the spike protein for
yes.
coronavirus?
Yes, absolutely.
Because ACE inhibitors have been around for a while, and yes, they do have receptors for its angioconverting enzyme inhibitor.
That's right.
And that's their job, to inhibit so that you.
The answer is yes. The answer, my research says yes. You ask, do they increase? They increase the likelihood that the spike proteins from the coronavirus will be able to dock, all right, and have increased entry points. Now, I'm totally open. I'm a researcher. All right, I'm not a doctor. I'm a researcher and a teacher. And if you can show me where that's not the case, I'll be glad to then take that off the list.
So let me jump in on that
Go
point.
ahead, John. Go ahead.
So, you know, yeah, it's scientifically, clinically, it sounds plausible what you're saying. But the thing is that when that article came out last year purporting about whether it was safe to use ACE inhibitors or not during COVID infection, later on it showed that there was really no clinical significance, and therefore patients were told not to stop taking the ACE inhibitors because there was no difference between patients that were on ACE inhibitors versus those that weren't. And so
that's where
theoretically it sounds, theoretically it sounds like in the lab they did those studies, and this is what it showed, you know, can happen with the spike protein. But clinically, we don't see that it has any detrimental effect when patients are taking ACE inhibitors. And as a matter of fact, if patients stopped taking the ACE inhibitors and their blood pressure went out of control, that would pose even more danger to those patients.
Well, I hear that. I definitely hear that patients need to take care of their blood pressure. Okay. I also think there are different ways to do that. But the point is, I read the first part, and then I read the article. And here's where my point of what you trust. Okay. So when they came out saying, oh yeah, but we found nothing, I'm skeptical highly of that research because of the amount of money, the amount of dependency of this pharmaceutical industry on Black people particularly continuing to take those drugs and our particular pharmaceutical response, okay, to high blood pressure. that should not be interrupted if they want to continue their high profit margins on it. Now, I'm willing to be proven wrong, but it is for me dangerous for Black people, okay, not to be skeptical. Let me tell you a little short story, real short. It's not about medicine, but there's a corollary. When I was at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, as a rabble-rousing cuss of a student, we found in the Black student movement files that previous students had been promised a Black Studies department based on their work. We took those documents and we began a movement. We took over the chancellor's office and all of that. And finally, we got a meeting with the chancellor and the provost, me and about 5 other folks. And we were challenging them. And the provost, in his exasperation, said, well, what do we have to do, to get y'all to trust us? Fall over backwards? And I leaned forward and said, not only do you need to fall over backwards, you need to roll over 2 or 3 times. You have earned my people's distrust. You must earn our trust. And we get to say when you have done that. And this is so important, right? That we don't just say, well, because you are the provost, or because you are Fauci, or because you are CDC, or because you are who. When we have a history where you have earned, and I'm not just talking about Tuskegee, and y'all know this if y'all medical folks, okay? All right, y'all know medical apartheid. Y'all know this better than me, all right? That is, they have earned our people's distrust.
Right.
And if anybody has earned my distrust, and they want to then sanction me for being distrustful, that is racist in the extreme. That is blaming the victim. In fact, if I have injured you, if I have hurt you, then it is my job to come to you and say, what do I need to do to gain your trust? Not to try to bamboozle you, not to try to fool you, okay? Not to just line people up and so using social pressure that if you won't do this, all right? This medical industry has not responded in a way to let me earn your trust. And this is dangerous. I work with some students. I work with high school students around the country, all right? And one high school student, we were dealing with what are the wounds of oppression. And she actually said one wound of oppression is that we don't trust the medical establishment.
Yep.
Wrong. It's not a wound of oppression. It's intelligence. Okay. See, it's important because if a student sees this as a wound, if it's been programmed, it is not a wound of oppression. It is a response to oppression. Do you understand the difference? All right. And that is, it makes sense. And if the system means me any good, it will be glad to do what it needs to do. It will welcome my skepticism. Just if you do somebody wrong, you welcome their skepticism because it becomes an opportunity for you to earn their trust. Okay? Not,
Okay.
Boom. So
So-
all right.
If I may, Mr. Wekesa, I want to be clear that me, as John said initially, me and my husband were extremely opposed to getting the vaccination when it first came out, and they were referring to warp speed and everything. Of course, we have the same experiences. Like you say, we're medical, we know the history, and we're definitely don't have that trust until we see the facts, until we see the science. And like you say, we choose who to trust, just like you choose who to trust. So I want to be clear that we just aren't blindly going into this, but we've done our research. Now you mentioned that in terms of immune system being built up, I just wanted to finish a thought I had started before. I agree. The immune system should be as built up or robust as possible once you receive the vaccine. However, for example, I have someone near and dear to me who has cancer. When you have cancer and they are on chemotherapy, when you have cancer and when you're on chemotherapy, your immune system is very depressed. It's very compromised. So based on what you're saying, one might think, well, if you have a weakened immune system, you shouldn't get vaccinated. I don't know if that's what you're saying, but let me finish.
No, that's actually, I do want to clarify. He didn't say that. I know you jumped on late, but he didn't say that. He actually said the opposite.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead,
okay.
Jeanine.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, yeah, if you could kind of further that thought, if you will, but that's good to know because, and if I could just finish my thought, that's good to know because if you have, let's take person A with cancer on chemotherapy and a weakened immune system who does not get the vaccination, and person B with cancer, a weakened immune system, and on chemotherapy who does get the vaccination, and both person A and person B contract coronavirus, who has a better chance of survival? That's what we're looking at. It's person B who got the vaccination, even though their immune system was compromised.
Well, you asked the question and you answered the question. And so if you're satisfied with that, that's fine. Okay. To me, what will make the difference will not be the vaccine. The vaccine triggers, please do your research. Please do what you can. Please, whatever. And this is important for our people. The vaccine does not strengthen your immune system. It does not even stimulate your immune system. Okay, the vaccine triggers and gives practice. Okay, your immune system has to respond. Okay, your cytokine signaling has to go on. Your neutrophils got to kick in. Your T cells, your B cells, all of that has to kick in. All right, and the person, you have two people, one who's receiving and one who's not. The one who will do better is who has the strongest immune system, even though both of them, their immune systems are compromised. And let me just say something about immune system. People make it like to get your immune system big and strong and robust, it takes a long time and you got to whatever. Give me a break. Every single thing you do adds to your body's ability to win. If folks start drinking water and they drink water regularly for a week and they get rest just for a week, their immune system is stronger. All right. If they stop sugar, okay, if they stop eating sugar, which compromises your neutrophils, your neutrophils and your monocytes like crazy, right? If they just stop it for 2 days, 3 days, the immune system, the body is an active thing. It is not like, oh, I got this ball wart, all right? And it's continually having this fight with coronavirus or any other thing. And everything that they do, whether it's rest, whether it's cut out sugar, whether it's exercise, whatever, right, will help their bodies respond. And the vaccine does not do anything to the virus at all, nor does it. If you would show me one report that says as a result of the taking the vaccine, that Wekesa's immune system is stronger, that his cytokine response is greater, right? That is monocytes, T cells, neutrophils, that the white blood cells in the bone marrow is increased as a result of taking the vaccine. I would love to see it, but it does not. Okay.
Well, let me add to that.
So
Let's
do this. John, we're going to go. John, why don't you go ahead? And then, guys, we actually need to get ready to wind it down. I'm going to give everybody, one last opportunity to say something. So, John, you rebut, and then Baba Wekesa, we're going to take your last statement before we get ready to close out and go around the horn. Go ahead, John.
Okay. In terms of the immune system and how it responds to, let's say, coronavirus, giving somebody the vaccine, yes, it stimulates their immune system to know how to fight the coronavirus. But what it's doing is it's making the immune system select to the particular COVID, to the spike protein. So it knows how to fight the virus. Someone and has a natural immune system, even if it's boosted and now encounters the actual virus, the virus, you get the infection, your immune system goes all haywire. It's trying to produce antibodies. It's trying to produce all these interleukins, monocytes, T cells, and everything to try to fight off this coronavirus. But it's the problem that is associated with this myriad, out of control immune system that your body is in the process of trying to fight the COVID. And then you end up with all these other complications, the vascular, the cardiovascular, neurological. That's the problem. That's what you have with natural herd immunity from infection versus a a vaccine that targets it specifically and allows the immune system to work merrily to fight off the infection. So that's the difference between that and someone contracting the virus and then having their immune system fight it off.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Thank you for that clarification. I tell you what, I'm getting a lot of messages. We got some stuff come through Facebook and just other members that we need to have a part 2 on this. There's been so much great information, and the 3 of y'all have been very enlightening. Now, I ain't guaranteeing there's going to be a part 2, but I only say that because every session we've had this year, 2021 so far, everyone has said we need a part 2 to that. So we appreciate the powerful communication tonight. What I want to wind up here before we hand it back over to Marty, who will go through our rituals, I want to ask each person. We're going to start with Baba. I want to start with you, and then Jeanine, Dr. Oliga, Dr. Oliga, you, and then John, I want you to sum it up. I just want you all to, the conversation is vaccine, no vaccine. I want you to take a 30 to 45 second just last statement as to why not, or what's most important, what we should be doing from your perspective. Baba, I'd like to start with you.
Okay. First, I want to respond to John. John, you're absolutely right about what's called a cytokine storm. This is the first time cytokines have ever been put in such a damaging light. And I don't agree that your immune system just goes haywire. There is, it can and does sometimes, but literally that's not the only way to get your body. We actually promote and use melanin, which is a modulator of cytokine production, allomelanins particularly, so that doesn't happen. So my point really has been, our response has been a more comprehensive response to this, okay? And I think more empowering and effective response to this than just sit and wait, hide from it, and then wait on the guys in the white coats like this to then come up with a solution. That builds a level of dependency, and it actually weakens us. Okay. Before you know it, it'll be, oh, you got to have another one next week, and got to have another one next week, and got to have another next week, and it's just like the flu virus, it's going to be in. That level of dependency is dangerous for our bodies. It's dangerous for us as a people. And again, nothing says build a response that will have you be more robust, not only in fighting this, but in fighting other illnesses that we need to deal with in our community. And so that's our response. And so I think that the need for the virus has been overblown. For the vaccine has been overblown. I think people have ignored the power of vitamin D3, the power of ivermectin, the power of COVID organics and Artemisia particularly, okay? The power of other responses that would not necessitate a level of risk on a vaccine that hasn't been tested over 5 years, okay? And tested on dogs and tested in the human population is a key thing. One of the things that's important is that people need to know that these companies have been given clear 100% immunity from anything that happens as a result of this, right? And when 99.6% of people's own immune system keeps their condition mild all the way through to recovery, it is unnecessary for the health of the people. It is absolutely necessary for pharmaceutical profit and for building dependency.
Thank you, Baba. As always, very intelligently, wisely, and research spoken. Go ahead, Marty. I'm sorry. Before we let Jeanine
that's
go.
okay. That's why I wanted to ask Baba just for my own edification. Do you have a test group that you're doing with the NGOLO project?
Do I have a test? You mean, have I created randomly controlled trials? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I don't create random. What I have is we have over 1,000 people who've been a part of this, and they come and they self-report whether they've contracted the virus or not, how they're doing with it.
Well, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
We've had people go into the hospital, all right? Only one of many people who contracted it, but used our protocol at their own will, okay? Because I don't prescribe anything. I'm not a doctor. I'm an educator. And one person who did was able to, in the hospital, maintain as much of that protocol. They wanted to give her sugar. She said, I'm not going to do it. I'm a part of this, whatever. She came out of there, okay? Now, she has since taken the vaccine, and that's great. We say there ain't no shame in that game. Please do what you think is necessary at an individual level. That's not the same thing as what I advocate. I do not advocate people taking the vaccine. I respect if somebody decides to do that, okay? And then I say, let me show you how you can build your immune system to support your decision since you decided to do that. Others have decided that they will build their system so that they can respond quickly without the need of an mRNA vaccine or the Johnson & Johnson variety or Covaxin from India or Covax from whatever, right? And so that's the difference, okay?
I got you. I just, the only reason I asked that question was it would be great to be able to have, proof sources and all that.
Well, there are people that you can talk to. You can come to any NGOLO meeting you want to. It's free, open to the public. Some MDs come, all right, and have come, and we don't proselytize, okay? We educate. Now, I'm clear about, I'm not a mamby-pamby person. I'll say what my opinion is, and I also respect very much other people's opinion, and I encourage people to bring information that they have. Now, that information is like all information, is open to scrutiny. We don't have a parent-child relationships. All right. I had a heart attack, what people call heart attack. I call it heart event. 100% included lower anterior descending artery on August 9th. All right. I was in the hospital, and when it was time to come out, and not based on cholesterol, incidentally, thank goodness. But anyway, it was time to come out. The doctor wanted to put me on some meds, wanted to put me on cholesterol, although I did not have high cholesterol, all right, and had no more than 20% cholesterol in my arteries. They wanted to put me on high blood pressure medication, even though testing in ICU, I didn't have high blood pressure. And when I told the doctor that I'm not going to take that, he frowned a bit, and I said, Doc, you're a professional. I want your professional opinion. I appreciate your professional opinion. When you give it to me, then I will consider your professional opinion. This is not a parent-child relationship. This is an adult-to-adult relationship. Give me your best, and we will move forward. Unfortunately, too much of the way we respond to whether it's medicine, whether it's law, whether it's whatever, has been based on a superior-inferior paradigm where essentially it creates this parent-child relationship, and that needs to be done away with.
Understood. Completely understood. Baba, do you have a link for NGOLO?
Sure.
Can you put it in the chat? We'd like to put it on our website as well. Thank you for that, though, by the way.
You're welcome.
Go ahead. John, were you jumping in? I'm sorry, I jumped in.
Are y'all saying me?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeanine.
Go ahead, Jeanine, you can go.
So as Mr. Baba said, everyone's interpretation is open to scrutiny. And I hear a lot of educators, a lot of scientists, my colleagues, they may say a lot of things, but I echo, it's open to scrutiny. What my emphasis is, and it's always been to my patients since I first started practicing, is yes, you need to be healthy. You need to drink water, exercise. The American Heart Association recommends 30 to 45 minutes of exercise most days a week. And I try and live by what I preach, by what I tell my patients. We do have to be a stronger people by building up our immunity. Diabetes prevalent in our community. We gotta reduce the sugar intake, the cholesterol intake. The thing about the vaccination is you can have a very strong system. You can be in top-notch health. You can have A1 cholesterol levels. Your blood pressure can be well controlled. And you can still contract the coronavirus and get severely ill and die. This has been proven. We have over 500,000 deaths. And those are not just in high-risk people. So I agree. It's not a parent-child relationship that we want to foster, not at all. I respect anyone's choice in what they want to do. I just feel passionately about the fact that we need to get ourselves in appropriate health, the strongest health possible, and get the vaccination to prevent the possibility of severe illness and death.
Thank you, Jeanine. Appreciate that. John, I want you to close us out with your words, and you've taken such great care of so many out there in your practice, including myself, who you've been my physician my entire adult life. So, you know, it was very interesting for me to see you take this step out publicly to promote this and support the community and want to do this. So what would you say, good brother?
What I would want to end up in saying is that in our community, I think it's very important for us to consider getting the vaccine because one is that we're around our family, we're around relatives, friends. We don't want to continue to spread this disease to other people and cause them morbidity, mortality. When the CDC says today, for example, if you already received the vaccine and you're around with other people inside, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. Or if you've already been vaccinated, you can be in another house with somebody who is not being vaccinated. You don't have to wear a mask. When we start to see those steps, it's moving in the right direction. And for this past year, we've been fighting this with this virus. We have so many people who are going through what we call pandemic fatigue, and for us to continue this position with no changes, it doesn't make sense. That's why I think it's strongly important that more and more of us get vaccine in our community, so that we can start to regain some of that normal life that we were accustomed to before 2020. We may not get back completely to that, but as normal as possible.
Thank you, brother.
Great stuff. Well, people, we are way over our time than we normally would be going to, but this is such an important topic, and such good diverse views on the topic, with a lot of parallel views as well. I'm glad that we were able to broach the topic the way that we have this evening, and I dare say that we will do this again in some form or fashion, and it may be one that we just have to talk about the world of medicine in general, because to Baba Wekesa's point, we as a community have some high levels of skepticism, as we should, and to our physician's point, there is a place for medicine, obviously, and we need it. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get us wrapped up here, and I want to thank you guys for your participation. Every week we wrap up with the Black Man Lab in the same way. There's an organization known as NGOLO, and one of the organizers there, Queen Mother Injiri Alghani, every week she wrapped up every session with what we call a link in this chain. So if we were together, when we're in the same space, we're doing this virtually now, but if we were in the same space as we normally are at the Andrew Walter Young YMCA, we all link arms together. So I'm going to ask everybody to just act like you're linking arms together, and then repeat after me. I'm a link in this chain.
I'm a link in this chain.
And it won't break here.
And it won't break here.
I'm a link in this chain.
I'm a link
in this chain.
And it won't break here.
And it won't
break here.
We are links in this chain.
We are links in this chain.
And we won't break here.
We won't break here.
Ashe. thank you all so much. We
Robert
really
Wekesa,
appreciate
thank you so
taking time
much.
this evening to join the
Jeanine
Black
and
Man
John,
Lab.
thank you so much.
And,
I want to thank you. I want to thank John and Jeanine. I love all the work that you have been doing and continue to do in our community and for our people. All right. I absolutely love it. And also love that you are supporting and advocating your conviction.
Yep, exactly.
And likewise, Mr. Wekesa, thank you for the work that you're doing because it's needed. You know, people need to see all perspectives and all sides. So we appreciate you.
This has been very powerful, y'all. We will do this again. Thank you all so much. Marty, great job hosting as always. You know, they were getting kind of wild there for a second, Marty.
You
but
ran with it, Joe. I just sat back and watched it. I just watched. I got out the way, man. One of the times I just got out the way. But again, appreciate you all so much. And, you know, awesome, to that point, we're stronger together, obviously.
Amen.
And the more information that we are able to share with our communities on whatever, on both sides of the fence, it's better for everybody, man. So we'll keep moving forward together and be links in this chain, all right?
Black Man Lab.
Love you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Love you.